Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Alana. Today's an interesting capstone conversation on this idea of what do we do in uncertain times when our lives are changing and we're maybe looking for more different kinds of work, and just how is this going to work? How do we become more entrepreneurial? Because one thing is probably pretty for sure is that as our world changes and as new jobs come and as more of us see places where we can offer what we know and what we have to give the world in different ways, an entrepreneurial spirit helps with those choices and offers us some new things to think about. So that's what today is about. And thank you very much to the people who are here and also those who will be watching by recording. So easy agenda. I'm going to talk about the two previous sessions that add up to this one. It's a trifold set of ideas. So that if you haven't seen the other two, you know where to go look. An entrepreneurial mindset or headspace. What does that mean? Will be discussed. And then some very specific ideas about translating this entrepreneurial headspace to both looking for academic work and also non-academic work. And then perhaps when we hear the word entrepreneurial, we think about filling a need and starting a company. So I'll have a few things to say about that. And once again, if you have questions, please ask them by going to www.wooclap.com/grad support. I'll look at those at the end. We'll go through whatever conversation you want to bring up, and that leaves the chat open for people to have conversation with each other. And there will be several places in here where you actually might have better ideas than I have, so I'll be watching for those as well. So where does this session really start? Well, it started in October with a session that we did on job prep, building your networks in a remote world. And that was to say, okay, at that time especially, many of us were very much in our own home work environments, and we still are. And so, what does the internet network mean? What does it offer us? How do we build it? What kind of work does it take? Those were the ideas that we discussed then. And then later on in October, we had a Friday student-to-student conversation with Erica, who had graduated with her PhD, would be 18 months earlier than when she did this. And she talked about how she had found and cobbled together in a very entrepreneurial way enough support for her life in an academic world, and how she was building her academic and research presence and what that had looked like and how she'd been able to do it. So if you didn't see that, I highly recommend her slides as well. And then today we'll talk about it as a conceptual framework. What is entrepreneurial thinking? And some specific ideas that you might want to take on board. And we'll talk to each other and answer questions as we do. So the entrepreneurial mindset or headspace, what does that mean? Well, of course, I went to the literature and a couple of things popped out for me. Entrepreneurship is a mindset, not a business model. We should not limit our definition of entrepreneurship to narrow interpretations such as starting a new venture. But it should be broaden our understanding of what the concepts are in entrepreneurship. So it isn't, you can be an entrepreneur within a company, within a life, many ways. It's about having your ideas have a bit more creativity than perhaps used to be the norm in the world. I think those things are changing very quickly. And then from a particular book called The Entrepreneurial Mindset, your mindset is the sum of your knowledge, including beliefs and thoughts about the world, and yourself in it. I think that's very key. It is your filter for information, the information you get in and put out. So it determines how you receive it and how you react to information. And then another man who was writing for Forbes magazine, although I apologize, I didn't catch the link for this one. My keyword search was entrepreneurial mindset. He had been asked to speak to a university audience. He had done quite a bit of research with entrepreneurs. So he'd had conversations with them as a journalist over years. And he was asked by a university, I believe, certainly by Forbes magazine, to give a list of what he had learned from all these successful entrepreneurs over the years. And these were the things from his list that struck me because I agree with them. Know what you are good at and passionate about, and let what you love drive your decisions. So if there's any one takeaway from this, that's the one that I would hope you would take away. That there is something inside of us that that we can use as a guidance system. Oh, it makes my heart sing. Oh, I get really small when I think about that. Well, go for the ones that make your heart sing. See opportunities. Think creatively. Apply your emotional intelligence when you're working with people. Be persistent. Know that 20% of what you do will earn you 80% of your results. And then take risks with confidence. And by the way, taking risks with confidence, it gets easier the more risks you take because it didn't kill you last time, so you might as well try it again. So this is the Forbes, that was, I guess, a general one. I did give you the link for Forbes. It's here. It's a good article. And what he says is the best way to predict the future is to create it. The most important decision you can make is how and where do you want to spend your time? If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, there is no such thing as work-life balance. I'll circle back to what is meant by that one a little later. The best entrepreneurs don't come up with great ideas. They solve market needs. I'll come back to that one as well. The one thing all successful entrepreneurs have in common is the desire to make their idea a reality. So that's, again, following your heart. I really want this. I want to make this my reality, this vision that I have. If that is leading you, then you will find surprising ways to get there. Action trumps everything. Stop thinking and get underway. Take small, smart steps towards your goals. Forget about working on your weaknesses. Play to your strengths. That's another one that I would like to underline, especially for graduate students, because I think there's something in the graduate milieu of life that has you working towards perfectionism, has you working very, very hard and super conscious of where you might not have it all quite perfect yet. And to move into an entrepreneurial spirit, you leave that behind. You figure out where your strengths are and you keep pushing towards your strengths. I love this one too. This has to do with marketing. Your customer is never wrong. So if your dogs don't like the dog food, it is bad dog food, whether or not it has all the right stuff in it. If we are going for a particular kind of thing and it never works out for us, then we are not a good match for that particular kind of thing. Perhaps we ought to find another thing that will be a better match. And network. It is about who you know, but they don't have to know you well. They just have to know you enough to put this and this together and suggest something to you. And I'll speak to that and some research about it again a little bit later. So that sets up kind of who do we want to be? We want to see the world as opportunities, and we want to be bold, and we want to take risks. So how are we going to translate that into the nuts and bolts of we are where we are in the world, and how do we go out for either an academic or non-academic work? Well, first let's look at these words. So what is a career? A career is a collection of jobs. Frequently careers take us places we had no intention of going, and in ways that we could not have imagined. So careers are built over a big, long time, and at any given moment, we only catch glimpses of what they might be. A job is work we get paid for, and sometimes volunteer work helps us get jobs. So good definitions to keep in mind while we think about this idea of jobs. So the practicalities of our world are that we need to earn enough money to support ourselves, and each one of us has a different collection of needs at different times of our lives, and depending on who else is in our life. Erica, who did the presentation, has a husband who has a well-paid job in the fact that he has health insurance and other things. So she didn't need to have the health insurance bill on her plate for what she needed to contribute to the family. That made her ability to take a few things here or there a little easier. So we all are going to be different about that. But we need to consider what tasks we specifically enjoy doing, and how long do we enjoy doing that task before we don't enjoy it anymore. So I was thinking about that as I was doing these slides. I enjoy formatting. They're going to think I'm crazy. I really do enjoy formatting dissertations. Frequently, when I've done outside editing work and coaching work with people, I've been passed a document where they just didn't know how to use Microsoft Word very well. It just had things that didn't make it one solid publishable form. And I was on the clock, and I definitely enjoyed making it all fit and all the Microsoft Word pieces go together. But the question becomes, how many hours a day could I do that and still enjoy it? Like, if it comes my way once every 6 months, yeah, I enjoy it. If it came my way 8 hours a day, every day, probably wouldn't keep the enjoyment up. So you see what I mean? That doesn't mean that some of the tasks that you don't enjoy that much aren't actually the tasks that will keep food on your table and a roof over your head. And so at that point, I say will have, next time you're out looking for work, probably this graduate degree that you can lay down, and it means certain things to people. It means critical thinking. It means being able to use words well. And that implies editing, and it implies ghostwriting potential. It implies other things. So how does the world see your degree, and what tasks what work is there that you might get some payment for as you build your bigger dreams? Because I think frequently, my life certainly, frequently, I've had one thing that kept me going while the other thing got built. So how much do you like it? How many hours a day before you didn't like it anymore? And every career having tasks that we like better than others. And when the balance is right, the number of hours won't mean so much. And that is the first little hint towards this work-life balance doesn't really count when we're living an entrepreneurial life. Because as long as every task that we are doing is within the target of how much we can do it and still enjoy it, then we can cobble together a life of many tasks, and the overall number of them might be more than we would have if we got a 40-hour-a-week position, but it won't matter because each section of it feels fine. So I think the first thing that we have to know about is actually the last thing I put on the slide is in the 1970s, Granovetter did some very important work that actually now leads to LinkedIn, but he was looking at employment and who did you know that got you the job you now have, and his end result of his work was that we don't get jobs from the people who know us well. We get jobs from the people who know them well, or our second layer of network. Those are the people who, if we hit them at just the right time, they know of a job that we might be well suited for, and they pass us on. And this came out, it'll be said in one of the other go-to videos that I mentioned at the beginning, where what is the surest way to get a job? To have somebody in the company you want to work for recommend you. But they don't have to know you well to recommend you. They can even say, a friend of a family member has this, and I really know her family member, but here's a resume you might want to look at. And that resume will get a much higher standing and approval rating than one that just comes in of equal or higher quality through the mail. So that's called weak ties. We get our jobs through weak ties. Well, then, boy, that opens up all the people you can talk to, doesn't it? And Erica mentioned that she followed for you on her video the tracks that she took to get the jobs that she has cobbled together in her last year. So who has an investment in you doing well? Well, your program does. And so a good thing to do when you're at universities to talk to everybody in your program about where they might think you should work and what they know about the job field and everything you can pull from them, because different people will have different ideas. So never get tired of having that conversation with people in your program. And make sure you also go to your university career center. I hear many times that they're more focused on undergraduate, but that doesn't mean they don't know anything about graduate. And that also brings up the alumni center. They don't always know where alums work, but they might know some. And if your degree is in biology, then they might remember an alum in biology from your university. And that's a person you can call and you can say, I'm graduating, and the Alumni Center said you got a similar degree. Do you mind spending 15 minutes, a cup of coffee with me on Zoom, have a conversation about the workplace as has been your experience? Interesting conversations to have, and that person will remember you when you go on again. So this is the time when as soon as you begin to look at what is my next, then a very first good step is to start telling everybody that it's your next and find out what they have to suggest for you. Okay, so then we take those ideas into academic and non-academic, and this is the part where I'm hoping some of you have things you might want to add to this from your own experience, because I found that I was relying heavily on Erica's for the academic side, and what I know has been true for people coming to my company on the non-academic side. And they're very similar. They're very similar. So you first want to take care of getting your immediate needs met. And on the academic side, all of you should be well able to freelance editing jobs. To freelance, so go to the freelancing sites and see what others are doing, and put yourself out there to earn a few dollars a week doing this and that, and kind of get a lay of the land of what your just basic skills because of your degree will offer you. Um, as you are talking to people in your program, as you are talking to the Career Center, as you are thinking about what professional organizations you want to belong to, or you're going to their publications and you're looking up people, you're going to LinkedIn to find those people and you're trying to connect with those people who are doing work as you are doing work, and you are looking for as many people who know you. And if you have your eye on particular fellowships that you're looking for, or particular jobs that might be open, then of course you are honing all of those into who knows somebody at this university, who knows somebody in this organization. And you may be aware of this, but all the programs within the university have their own inter-organizations that they are part of. So I work with deans in graduate schools, and there is a council of graduate schools in the United States, and they have 500 of the 1,200 graduate schools in the United States are their membership. And within those, there are regional graduate memberships for the West, the Midwest, the South, and the East Coast. And the East Coast includes Canada. So as soon as you find the network, then you can find people to talk to, meetings to go to, publications that have been given, and you just work it step by step. The same thing's true with if you have research, then what conference would you go to present your research? Those conferences have special interest groups, and those special interest groups have people who head up the special interest group, who is another great person to have a conversation with. This is my field of research. I would love to present at your conference next. You're in charge of this special interest group. I'm starting my search for the university I want to work for, my next job, whatever it is you were searching for. And most people will give you at least something that you can continue to play off of. So it's like a one big chain that you are working. Now, on the non-academic side, you might be more likely to start with freelancing. But if you have an idea of where you want to go, then test it out. See if you can get an internship with that place. So I'll use us as an example. Many jobs today will require, both academic and non-academic, will require or might be interested if you had some experience doing things like this, giving webinars online, speaking about research to those kind of audiences, etc. Interns could come to us. Anybody with a degree can come to us. And if there is a place that I can figure for where that person's skills might be helpful, then we can work something out. 5-10 hours a week of your time can give you seriously interesting conversations to bring to the next job interview about what you've done, examples of your work, etc. My brother told me once that the thing about jobs are that you have to be contributing. So they're hard to get when you don't have one, because you don't have a sense of yourself at the time of what you are contributing. But if you build a life that has a lot of contribution in it, it's much easier to be just the best you can be when somebody's looking to hand you your next leg up the ladder. The rest of the things here are very similar. There's LinkedIn on both sides. There's alumni associations. You might look at your authors list and your reference list in your research. And if there's authors that you've read 2 or 3 of their things and you've used it in your own work, this is somebody who would probably enjoy talking to you. And so again, a quick call. This is who I am. I'm graduating now. This is my research. What do you know about possibilities in the world? And how was it for you? Most people like to talk about themselves. And so asking questions about how was it for you and what have you learned is a good way to make friendships, build networks. Okay, so the entrepreneurial does bring up the idea of starting your own company. And many academics are consultants, and that's a form of company. So the important part of this is not starting the company, but fulfilling the need. As the man I quoted earlier said, if the dog doesn't eat the dog food, it is not good dog food, no matter what it has in it. And so you can guarantee that if you are going to put yourself out there by yourself to earn a living by yourself on what you have to offer as a consultant, or because you have you just see something needs to be done, that something needs to be done about this needs to be the driving force, because it's the force that keeps you going when you don't quite know what you're doing or how you're going to go next. So a good idea is not a need. Just like a good idea in research is not enough to build a research project on, a good idea is certainly not enough to build a business on. So a good mode is, are there people suffering because of whatever it is? And I'll give you an example. I've been part of entrepreneurial networks now. We started the company 7 years ago, so I'm no longer in that entrepreneurial startup range, but I certainly was 4 or 5 years. They send you things, and I remember seeing the outpouring of an entrepreneurial boot camp, and somebody had invented or was designing a really smart water bottle for sports. The challenge is, of course, there are so many water bottles for sports. How is a new company with two young people in their 20s or 30s going to compete with all the people making water bottles for sports? So that was a good idea, but people weren't suffering because they didn't have it. That's to give you a sense of what I mean there. Does solving this idea excite you so much that you would give your time to do it? That you would work with people for free because you really need to have this done? And that needs to be your cutoff for that, because you need to be able to say yes, because you will spend a lot of time and you won't always get well paid for that time, especially not at the beginning. Businesses are hard and they're complex and they take just an awful lot, and you very likely will and I'm saying goodbye to someone who's saying goodbye, had to go early, that so you will be frustrated at times. If there's an excitement that burns because what you're doing here is something you really think needs to be done, it'll keep you going. So I started this company because I saw graduate students suffering because they were having difficulty getting through. And there have been many, many, many of those stories come and continue to come. And those stories are what keep me on the track to keep building this business until such a time as it started to get to be fun, because the business took off on its own. And now I get both things, which is even better. So the positives are, there are a lot of consultants out there who have the degree you are going for. So people are earning a living on their own with this degree. What are they doing? If you find them, they might tell you about what they're doing and why they went that way, and they might just have a part-time job for you. So if you are if there's something inside of you that would rather work for yourself than work for other people, I'm not discouraging it. I'm just saying go find out a lot about it first. You can likely support your passion with part-time work cobbled together. There are holes at the beginning, but those holes go away. And if you can put up with a year or so of kind of ups and downs, at the end of that year to 18 months, you'll be on much more assured ground as long as you keep working the ground. And that's almost always the case. So the truth about an entrepreneur and starting your own business is that it's going to use all the personal skills you have. It's not an easy road at all. You will look defeat straight in the face. So for every doctoral student who has thought about not finishing their degree because it just got so hard, multiply that by 10 and you're thinking about the challenges of being in your own company. But it is also more rewarding than probably any job given to you could be. At least as good as any job given to you. So if you are inclined to be on your own business-wise, learn about it. Learn about being a business, learn about what it takes, learn about taxes, talk to entrepreneurs who've been doing it for 10 or more years and ask them for help and guidance. All those things will be really good. If you can, and you see someone out there who's doing something kind of close to what you'd like to do, see if you can intern with them. See how close you can get to feeling what it is really like to live that work. So we're going to take questions. There aren't any questions at the moment, so maybe we'll finish early, which is perfectly fine as well. But there aren't any questions yet on the work after your degree. But there is some news from Doctoral.net. So the two red arrows point to the fact that Thursday is a webinar on organizing ideas from Dr. Maria Sanchez-Patino. If you haven't seen her webinar, she's very, very good at piece by piece ideas. And if organization has ever been a challenge, especially getting those ideas organized before you write, I recommend the upcoming webinar on Thursday. And then Monday before Thanksgiving at 7 p.m. Irish time. So much later in the day than our webinars often are. Dr. Stephanie is doing a webinar and planning ahead to analyze mixed methods research. So she's a social scientist, and we hope that will be helpful. So a few things in the chat, not many. Asking people in the room. Then in your chat box is a hand. Raise your hand if you have anything you'd like to discuss with this. Otherwise, I said as much as I needed to say, and if you don't have particular questions, then we'll let each other go and get some other work done that we might probably have on our desk unexpectedly. So what do you think? And people watching by recording, as I'm waiting for an answer from the people in the room, thanks for watching. It looks like we might be having a silent moment, which means I hope you got something out of today. I hope it made you think about ideas. Oh, good. A question about getting editing help. Will do. We'll wait for her to type in. as she's typing away, one of the things that is true is that if you have a graduate degree, yeah, you probably have the first step of being able to put yourself out there as an editor. You also likely know that editing has a lot of fine tuning potential to it. So you'll have, so if you're looking for an editor, and as other people might be looking to you as an editor, just what are you good at? What's the realm of your research knowledge, so you understand how words are used? What is the realm of how academic the voice can be? Are you suited to edit for people who are more academic or not? And are they, if you're going outside somewhere for editing, uh, how good are they going to be? For a while, I looked into whether or not we wanted to partner with an organization that there are several, and they're more prevalent in other parts of the globe, where writers frequently are writing in English and it isn't their first language, yet they're writing for scientific journals that are English speaking journals. And the way these companies, their price isn't too bad. Say $1,000 maybe to publish a journal article. For a person who doesn't, English is not their first language, that's not a bad number of hours. But the way they work is that they first send the papers through machine learning to pick up basically what you would get if you went to Grammarly or Advanced Grammarly or Advanced Writing Pro. So all those things come up. And then also, they say that your work is being looked at by a PhD in your field, but those people are so poorly paid per hour that they could not possibly be giving you that service as though it was a similar service to someone that you would contract with through your university that was literally reading piece by piece. So do be aware that price, I would never turn in a big document for editing before I had given them a page or two for editing, just to see what came back. And then I'd look at 2 or 3 places and I'd see what might be the best. I'd be very careful. What we do have a couple of PhDs now who edit for us. And what we do is suggest that somebody pays for an hour. We only do it by time. So this is just to give you a range of what I think it makes good business practice. There's no way an editor could tell you exactly how much something is going to cost until they've looked at your work, because your work is going to be so different from somebody else's work. So they need to be able to look at the work, and we suggest you pay for an hour. They look at your work for half an hour, and then they talk to you for half an hour, and then you decide after that. And we also suggest that you keep the cost to a particular time. So I'll pay you for 4 hours. Let's see what you can do in 4 hours, because it's within my budget. And then I can see what comes back and whether or not it's worth that amount of budget. Because editing is one of those things that, it's just all over the ballpark. Copy editing is different from editing. So be really clear what they're looking for and what you want them to look for. And make sure those sync. Copy editing includes all the grammar. Copy editing is what Sage does for my books after they're completely edited and completely reviewed. Copy editing is every little possibility I might want to look at or redo. So the question that's come in is, I see that some editing services now offer 365-day unlimited rounds of re-edits. For the same price? Would you say it'd be ideal for having our dissertation chapters edited, as multiple rounds of revisions are often required by the committee? For the same price? And the services you've been working with all have partnerships with major journals in your field. Adrian, tell us more. This might be a very interesting way to go. Unlimited rounds of re-edits. So is that a one? Usually a few hundred more expensive. So they're a bit more expensive. Well, they should be. But unlimited rounds of re-edits for the same cost, like you pay one cost and then you can keep sending it back. Or for a few hundred more, or something slightly like the next time you see it, you don't pay as much. Yes. Okay. That's it. That's a business model I hadn't been aware of. It seems reasonable. I tell you the truth, I don't have any attachment to any editing business model because I think there are a number of things out there and no one is going to be the end all for everybody. Now, do you want to tell us the services, Adrian? That's fine. I mean, you've been satisfied and you're sending things on. It's perfectly all right to suggest to other people that it be something that they look into. Just so everybody knows, we only do editing because we get asked for it, not because it's a major business part of our business model. But so if there was somebody else out there that did a much better job for less of a cost, I'd be happy to send them on. Some people also like more of a hands-on relationship with somebody. Everybody feels comfortable in a different place. Pay a premium price, 200 to 300 higher than regular editing initially, and then I get unlimited rounds for a year. That sounds reasonable. And we'll wait until she gives us some. And then the question becomes, so now you're on the other side of this conversation we've been having. So this conversation is what would you want to do this as work? Would you want to be one of the editors that gets paid? Editage. Good. And obviously you say one such service, so there are others. And I bet if you put in editage, their competition would come up as well. Yeah, so do you want to get paid to do this? If you do, I wonder how much their people are getting paid. This is what I always come up with. Because you all know Dr. Maria, and for a while she was working, there was a company that we knew here in the UK that was setting up an editing service, and she could work with them on setting up the way it worked and other things, but when it came down to them offering her a job as an editor, it was something like, it would have worked out to be $7 or $8 or $12 an hour or something that was so grossly underpaid for the level of conceptual understanding that she would give to a document, that it was nuts. So that's what you have to figure is, who's doing it, how much time are they going to be able to give my work for that much, and how much of what they're doing involves now machine learning, which isn't bad, but it's also something you can do on your own. So what else? Anything else we need to talk about? If not, I will say goodbye to the people who are watching recording. Adrian, thank you for the conversation about other editing services. And if you've been pleased, that's a nice, with editage, that's a nice recommendation. And we didn't have any questions or concerned about work after you finish your degree. So I hope the idea of cobbling things together gives you some ideas, and I hope all of you who see that day coming, that graduation day coming, are beginning right now to build your networks and talk to people and work out what your next stage might look like. And just to remind you that there are these two other parts. So this is now a 3-part series. Build your networks, look at what other people have done before you, and then this last one is build your own entrepreneurial spirit. And with that, I'll say goodbye to the people watching recording.